Let me just make sure. Hello, we are now live. Welcome to our From Blood and Ash read along. We are on book number 2, A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Oh, there it is. Mine is all the way at the top of my bookshelf, and I did not want to get it. Yay! There we go. The beautiful, beautiful books. So this is the second book. We will be talking spoilers. So if you have not read the first and the second book, and you don't care about spoilers, then stick around. If you do, then I would not stick around. But yeah, we'll be talking spoilers. We'll be talking all the things. And yeah, we'll just start by introducing yourself. Let us know how many times you've reread it, or if it's your first time, and what you rated it this time reading it. So yeah, we'll go that way.
That way? Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Isa from the channel Fan Fantasy Books. I mainly talk about fantasy. I do book recommendations, reviews. Sometimes I do book recaps so that you can skip the rereads. And this is the second time that I read this book. And this time around, I liked it a little bit less. I think it's mainly because it's not a good book to read after binging A Court of Thorns and Roses, like the whole series, but nonetheless, I rated it like with a 4. So not bad. Not bad.
All right. Am I next?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm Jess from Honest Fiction. I mostly read fantasy romance and romance. And I'm pretty sure this is my third time rereading A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. And I rated it lower. So I only rated it 3 stars this time around. And I think originally when I read it, I rated it 5.
Oh, okay.
I'm scared to reread it. So I read this for the first time. I'm Hannah. So my channel is Hannah Blackwell. I read fantasy romance and fantasy romance, and then like I sprinkle in other genres like thriller and horror and stuff, but predominantly fantasy and romance. I read this for the first time and I gave it 5 stars. I definitely have to say the first third was not feeling 5 stars. But things really like got going and interesting, especially like hitting the halfway point, I feel like, and that ending. So I don't know. I'm like, should I not reread this?
So in the comments, if you want to say if you've reread it or what you rated it the first time you read it. But hi, I'm Tori. You're on my channel Novel Life. If you're new here, I read primarily a lot of romance. I don't think I've picked up a non-romance book in quite a while. But that's all genres of romance. So fantasy romance is definitely included. This is my third time rereading it. I'm pretty sure it's the third time I reread this one. And I gave it 5 stars just because it's very nostalgic for me. I love it. I love this series. It's not my favorite out of all the books. Like, you know, reread I think the third one a couple times too, but it's not my favorite, but I really enjoyed it. Less enthusiastic about this reread. I was debating not rereading it because I remember a decent amount. But yeah, it was just I love Poppy and Castile, and I just love their banter, and I love everything about it. So I guess my first question is, I am curious to see what you guys think about Castile, considering how the first book ended. Do you have any thoughts about him, what he'd done in this book, decisions he's made?
So at first I got kind of, I was a little bit frustrated because I felt like especially he could have done a better, because you can kind of see more, even though you're through Poppy's eyes, you can see more of like why he's doing what he's doing and that he is genuine. But I feel like he's not doing a good, especially in the first half, he wasn't doing a good enough job explaining himself. And like, I feel like he could have communicated better. He could have been more clear. I feel like he wasn't really helping his cause much. So he frustrated me. I have to say, he frustrated me. They both frustrated me. But I liked him more than I did like at the end of the first book. Like I grew more attached to him. But I felt like at times he was a bit naive and a bit lacking on the communication front.
Fair point. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think the only time that I mostly was frustrated with Poppy throughout this book, like big time. But at one point, there's like a spicy time. I think they're in like a cave or like a waterfall, and they've decided that they're going to be real with each other. And you're like, finally, like this entire book, they've been questioning that. And then Castiel like cuts her off and was like, I know it stays here. It's fine. Like, don't worry about it. Like, we're not going to actually be real. And that was the only time I was like so frustrated with Castiel.
That's when I was messaging you guys. Do you guys remember when I was sending those messages? I was like, la 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 la, la, amazing. And then I was like, what the?
I think I was less frustrated with Castile. I think he comes across as way more transparent, right? Because it's finally him and we understand better what are his motivations, like his roles. I like that better. But still, like the miscommunication trope, it's so big here that was a little bit frustrating. But I think it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of like him more. Like still, like we got to know more about his background, his story. I think that was really interesting. And you know, it's kind of like he's not just sexy and cool. He also is tormented, and we know why. And I thought that was great. But yeah. I'm still like, please talk, or Poppy, please go and sense his emotions. Like, end of the book. This book can literally be like 20 pages long. Read his emotions. The end.
Yeah. I like this comment because it says, I think Castiel was battling his own demons about the situation, which is why, you know, this person forgave him. And I so wish we get his point of view from this book. Well, I feel like from all, I just like to see what's going on in his head, even though he is sometimes you can really see what he's like, you get glimpses of his emotions through Poppy's lens, but I want to know what he's thinking. And I feel like throughout this book, it was Poppy coming to terms of what happened at the end of, you know, the first book and combining Hawk and Castiel and realizing it is the same person, but also Castiel coming to terms with, I thought I had this whole plan to get my brother back and he's my twin brother and all this stuff like that. Are they twins? They're not twins, right?
I don't think so.
No, okay. They're just really close. I couldn't remember. But like, that's my brother and I want to get him back and all this. But at the same time, I'm starting to fall in love with this girl who doesn't even like me right now. You know what I mean? So I feel like this book was them going through different things internally. You know what I mean? I personally love the next book. I know, Hannah, you haven't read it, but that's one of my favorites in the series because you really move past all the stuff that's happened in this book and they finally are like having a romance. So I'm excited to reread the third book for sure.
I think he's also battling, because there's those battles that you're talking about, but also I think he's battling a little bit of self-esteem with Poppy, like where he doesn't think that she could actually like be into him or love him. And I think that's why a lot of times he would, like, before she would say anything, cover it up and be like, yeah, but we're pretending, because I think he just didn't want to get let down.
I think it's like it rooted down to the feeling of he not being worth it, right? Like there are multiple times across the book when she repeats like, yes, you're worth it. And I think it's that point in which he's like, okay, I don't deserve her, so therefore all of these I understand. But yeah, totally a good point.
I was looking up for this question. There is another book coming out in July, which is what we're leading up to. And it is supposedly Castiel's point of view, but I actually don't. July 18th.
She did say you have to read this book after you've already, like, you have to read them in order. So there are going to be like, and she hasn't exactly specified why, because I thought it was just going to be the point of view from the first book, but now I'm thinking it's actually more of the books in the series.
Okay. Yeah, the blurb doesn't say anything, but I did see that in her stories where she said that. So I would suggest reading. I don't think you have to read the prequel books. I don't think that's what she meant, but definitely read all from this world. But going from Castiel to Poppy, I know we talked a little bit about Poppy and what she's going through. I felt extremely frustrated with her in this book too. Like, oh my God, what are you doing, girl? Like, I just need you to get through it. I need you to work it out. It's the same person. You know what I mean? So how did you guys feel about Poppy this time reread? And then Hannah for the first time, how did you feel?
She drove me insane. I was she just questioning constantly about, is this real? And like seeing the way that Castiel was treating her, I feel like us looking in on it, it was very obvious that he loved her. And I just feel like the fact that she wasn't catching on to that was so frustrating throughout this book.
And part of me, I mean, I like to play devil's advocate. So part of me is frustrated with her, but part of me is like, she's never had someone like that in her life to love
Agreed.
her, to choose to love her. Like Victor loved her as a daughter, and you can tell. But I feel like that's really the only person besides her parents that, you know, they were taken away when she was so young. Like she doesn't really understand what that kind of love and admiration is. And I feel like her seeing that from Castile, it's, oh, is he using me and he's telling me these things so he can use me, or does he really feel this way? Because at the end of From Blood and Ash, you know, he's like, I'm so sorry, you know, the first time they have sex is, I'm so sorry, you know, all of those things, like, forgive me type of a thing. So while it is frustrating, I understood why she was doing this, but as a reader, we're like, he loves you. We know.
Yeah, I think kind of like agree with your point. Like in the last book, she has so much drama, right? And it's kind of like she's been alone all of her life, and now she's alone without the people that she knows, and in a completely different setting from the one that she has known. So I think that she can have this piece of not really trusting anything. The thing is that she kind of like is not learning or not inputting what seems to be clear, because the story otherwise doesn't add up. Like why Castile would marry you otherwise, right? Like there's not the point. But I think I would probably have done the same, right? Like it's the first time for her that she feels like a woman, and I don't know, it just feels as she not understanding the situation at all, but also not thinking about it deeply. So
I agree. Hannah, how did you feel about Poppy?
I felt about equally annoyed with both of them. I just felt like overall, like they were both battling their own issues. They were both failing at communication. I thought it was kind of equal on both sides. But I think I was especially more bothered in the beginning when she couldn't get past the fact that she was like, well, why is he going to marry me and then trade me? And I was like, duh.
yeah,
He's not. Like, and that really annoyed me because I was like, that is common sense.
yeah,
He's not. Why would he want to marry you if he was going to trade you? Exactly. Like, so that was like, I think 150 pages of that being her inner monologue. And that bothered me the most out of anything with her, I felt like. But after that, I felt like it was pretty equal with them both annoying me.
Yeah, I did feel like it's one of those things where I don't like wishy-washy characters. So for Poppy to stay in this whole, like, I've never had someone to love me like this. So while it is frustrating, like I said, for the reader, I'm glad she like stuck with that. Cause I feel like on the flip side, if she were to just be like, oh my God, yeah, like, of course he loves me. Like, I'm going to go with it. I feel like that's very naive of her to just go with it. I mean, did I think JLA dragged it out a little too much? Just a little bit, you know what I mean? But I still understood it. So yeah, we met a lot of new characters in this book, especially from Castile's side of the world, I guess you can say. So one that always sticks out to me is Alistair. That was one that we got a reaction from from Castile, pretty much from everyone. So how did you feel about meeting Alistair for the first time and then that conversation that he had with Poppy?
I don't trust him.
Okay.
And Poppy does. So I'm like, I guess if I'm in Poppy's point of view, I'm supposed to be trusting him if Poppy trusts him. But like, I don't personally trust him because I feel like he has his own motivations going on. And there was times that I thought that he really cared about her naivete in the situation, about her safety and things like that. But then there was other times I was like, but why are you, getting in the middle of this? This is none of your business. So definitely my thoughts about him were conflicted. But I didn't feel like Poppy's feelings towards him were as conflicted as they should have been.
It's almost like he gives her information under the guise of like being like this sweet person, but like really it's like information that is messing with their relationship. It's almost like over information that was unnecessary. Yeah. So
To me, he feels completely as a great character, right? Like, it seems that there are moments in which he's super good and it's like taking care of her. Like, if you're here against your will, let me know, I will help you. And I trusted that situation, right? But then there are others in which it's like, why are you even dropping this piece of information? So I mean, obviously I know what happens overall, but as of this point, I think that he is kind of like playing it both ways, right? Like, he's trying to be there, although he feels very much that by the end of the book, like after the wedding and everything, he's pretty mad already with everything. And I think that we are starting to see him not as a gray character, but a little bit more like, you have your own motivations, and I'm not sure if those motivations are good.
Right.
So I don't know if you picked that up, Hannah, or if you
Yeah, especially towards the end, he got more and more, and then obviously we saw what happened at the end. So like, I don't know who organized that, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, you guys know, but I don't know.
I love it that you haven't read it, because it's like you are kind of like the gatekeeper for us not just dropping spoilers, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
That's, I guess that's less fun for me because I'm like, please. Oh my god.
This is off topic, but someone said, Issa, you look like, I can never say this actress's name, but the girl from Pretty Little Liars. And I never thought of that before, but you actually do. You do remind me of her a lot.
I'm not sure who the person is, but let me check that out.
He plays Spencer in Pretty Little
I
Liars.
never watched that show. Like, I've seen the girls that play, but I've never watched it. So
me too.
I will check. Well, maybe later. I will check later. That makes more sense.
what was I gonna ask? I got distracted. Oh, is there any like specific moment in the book that stood out to you for whatever reason? Doesn't matter the character, and just like one thing you picked up that you were like, oh, I love that, or oh, that seems very suspicious, or oh, like anything like that. Do you have one?
The carriage scene in the battle has always drives me crazy when I read that scene. Like, there is other stuff happening right now. We need to put this on pause, deal with that, and then we can go back to the carriage. Like, every time I read that scene.
I love the carriage scene. I love it.
A lot of people do.
No.
Crazy.
I thought it was kind of ridiculous, but
Yes,
I was
like,
here for it.
People is dying outside right now. Like, what's the message that you're sending to your people if you're doing that instead of
they're vampires, kind of, right? Ish or whatever. They're not like a vampire, but they're whatever. They're not like human. They have like, Castile has more, I feel like, urges that are like, you know. And I think also their culture is a little bit more
open.
Yeah.
That I can agree, yes. Yeah.
With both violence and sex, I felt like.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I'm not very confused about like the different creatures we have, but I don't know if anyone read it for the first time. Like, Hannah, I know the first book, we had a lot of questions and people had questions about like, what is all these different things and what do they mean? Did you feel confused about any of like the world building, the characters, or anything like that, where you were like, I need more information? Or like Issa and Jess, did you read it and pick up a tidbit of information like, oh yeah, this makes more sense to me?
So there were inconsistencies that confused me.
Okay.
For example, when they were talking about, oh, well, you can do this now that you're on our land or whatever. And it's like, well, wasn't this all your land before? Can we, like, how does the land know or like, oh, we can get married in the city because we just took it back and it's our land. And I'm like, does the land know? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I felt like that was kind of inconsistent and weird. There was things with Poppy where it was like I felt like she had a memory lapse, and I don't know if it was like JLA forgot she already told us. Like, when what was it? He told her he was going to marry her before she met his parents, right? And then literally like 150 pages, he's like, yeah, we'll get married here instead. And she goes, or before I meet your parents? Like, do you seriously want to get married to me before I meet your parents? And I was like, told you that 150 pages ago. So that kind of, there was some of that. But in terms of the world building, and I guess I wasn't too confused about that because I'm okay with it just kind of slowly opening up, and I kind of just went with it.
Okay.
There was inconsistencies.
Did you guys notice anything this time around reading it?
To me, I mean, it's not that I am confused, but I think it's hard to keep track. Like, I understand what happens, like more or less, but it's really hard. And I've read prequel, right? And we know more thanks to the prequel about all of the different gods and everything. So it should be easier. But still, I found it really complex to keep track of. And in here, there's a god resting, and then there are this thing and this other thing. Like, I just feel that it's shared in a way in which it's supposed to be super easy to understand, but there are so many different things shared that for me it was kind of complex to keep track, to be honest. Not that it's complex, but it felt that way. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it seems like she had a lot of stuff that she wanted to put in.
Yeah.
And she's trying to like drop tidbits of information, which I'm actually really excited to read the prequel again because I've never gone back and reread. I think The War of Two Queens and the prequel, I've never reread those. So I'm interested to reread them to see how much I pick them up, because it's taken me with the first 3 books 3 or 4 times of rereading to feel like I fully understand the Craven, an Atlantean, a vampire, this, that. Like 3 or 4 times to reread a book is a lot to try and understand. So I can only imagine the first or second time you're trying to reread it, it's like, well, you're telling me I got it, and we're gonna move on.
I agree, and I don't remember if this comes up later. And Issa and Tori, you guys can just like nod yes or no, because are we ever explained why Victor, or why Alistair's voice reminds Poppy of Victor? Okay, I was like, because I completely forgot that, and then when I was reading, I was like, oh, and then I couldn't realize why. Like,
I have theories.
Okay, but it's never actually. I have a theory too, but we never actually get like a clear reasoning.
Yeah,
right?
no. Okay. Well, Alistair, of who he is, yes, later in the book.
Yes.
Okay, I forget.
But not why they remind her, if that makes sense. Okay. I'll just leave it there. I'm trying to be very vague. That's why I waited. I'm like, how can I phrase this to be very vague?
Okay.
I think for me, I kind of just let it kind of roll over me, which is kind of what I do when I read fantasy anyway. So I didn't get stuck on like which gods were where and what, all of that. I kind of just like take what I take. And if I don't take it in, I guess maybe I just trust the author to, if it's important, they will bring it back again, and it will soak in if it's supposed to soak in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I did that too. I did that too with From Blood and Ash. The beginning is very info dumpy. I'm 100% okay with saying that JLA did not the best. Like, she didn't do the best with introducing a lot of things. But a lot of the things I was ever confused about was either brought up again in the first and second book. So that's how I kind of figured things out. But also when I went back and reread it, I highlighted and I like made notes and stuff like that. One thing I want to mention, I feel like are important things, just people's thoughts on it. How did we feel about learning that Poppy was part Atlantean? Did you care? Did that like set off alarm bells? Were you like, how is that possible?
I'm trying to think of the first, because you find out at the end of the first book, right?
No, in this book, Castile is like, he tastes her blood and noticed that something tastes different, and then I think it's Alistair or something when he's there, or his father that's there. They're like, oh yeah, she's part Atlantean, and he's like, Castile's like, oh yeah, I should have known that. Like, I knew something tasted different or whatever.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't really surprised. I guess I gathered that from the end of the first book, because they were going to go get married on Atlantean soil. But I think I just made assumptions that I don't know if she assumed we would assume, or I just picked them up or whatnot. But I wasn't surprised by it.
just off topic, but isn't it a little bit weird for you guys that it's Atlantia? Like for me, I'm all of the time kind of like thinking of Atlanteans. So instead of vampires, I kind of thinking of mermaids
Right.
some
Oh
way.
yeah.
And it's like, why did you do that?
There's a lot of naming choices she made that I question. There's a lot of names also that are just so similar to other names, and it's not too bad yet, but it's gonna get bad.
Oh, it's gonna get so bad,
It's
so bad, and I'm just like, come on, JLA, why did you do this?
Especially when you're an audiobook listener, like I have to follow along physically because I was like, I don't know which character we're referencing right now. Like it's
or how to spell it,
or
like,
how to spell it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised to find out she was an Atlantean, but I thought it gave a good reasoning why the Tyramians and everyone, or why she was being used. Like I figured there was something special about her, so that kind of made sense.
What about how do you think of Poppy and Kiernan's relationship in this book? How did you feel about it, knowing that he is bonded to Castile, and obviously they're close, they're like brothers?
Yeah. To me, it felt, the relationship between Kieran and Cass felt very much as the Paravatai relationship in Shadowhunters, if you follow that. So it kind of like, no, you don't know. Well, it's kind of like they're really close, and it's kind of like also this bond. So I just felt like she getting closer to that was kind of like natural, but at the same time, it was, at the beginning, I thought it was going to be a love triangle. So I think like at that point, it was like, there's potentially some tension. Like Kieran is kind of like interested in her sometimes. So
I did not feel that way at all, which is interesting that you picked up on that, because I didn't pick up on that the first time I read it.
No?
I didn't get that. I got more like found family kind of like I felt like they were developing.
Maybe I just wanted it.
Oh, she froze.
Okay. I felt like it was more found family, like she was developing like a friendship and a reliance on him in a way that she couldn't necessarily rely on Castile. But I know I've heard the rumors of things, so I knew to look out for it just because it's been out forever and I haven't like read it yet until now. So I've heard plenty of like inklings about that possibility or whatever. But personally, I didn't see that. I saw a relationship, and then there was obviously certain instances where like when Castile was drinking from her and she was leaning on Kieran and everything like that. But yeah, I didn't get a full on like relationship vibes between the two of them.
Issa, what were you saying before you cut out, so I wasn't sure if you finished your comment.
Sorry, no. I was just saying that I kind of like really wanted some tension between Poppy, Castile, and someone else. Like I wanted that love triangle sometime, like with someone. So maybe it's me just projecting that. You know?
For some reason, I thought when I read this originally that Delano was going to be a love interest because Poppy, yeah, I don't know where I got that from. Poppy was like, had a connection with him, which we find out later, like what that is. But there were like multiple times where they're like together and they feel like they have this bond. So I don't know. That was when I originally read it.
No, but Castile is actually jealous of him, right?
Yeah, at one point.
He points it out, so
I didn't pick up on that at all. That's so interesting, like what people pick up and what I was just Poppy and Castile all the way. Like I was just honed in on them until that whole oh my gosh, what is it? The joining was mentioned in this book.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the joining?
Hannah?
I feel like it seems like they've said it can go like a number of different ways, and that would all just depend. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of.
Are you on board? Or are you not on board?
Shouldn't be included. I feel like it shouldn't have been included in the plot because I felt like it's you know, like in certain. I don't know if you guys ever read thrillers, but when there's like Easter eggs that don't lead anywhere, I don't know if that's what's going to happen. Like, I don't know where she's going with this. And obviously you guys have gotten farther than I have, so you guys know a little bit more. But I guess unless there's going to be something important about that, I don't know. I thought it was a waste. And I love Why Choose. Like, I love polyamorous books and Why Choose books, but I don't know. I felt confused by it, and it wasn't quite necessary unless she was going a certain place with this.
Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. Okay.
Only
How do you
because
well?
Confusion.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like a lot of people in the fandom have it's you're on board or you're not. You're not. It's like there's no one in the middle, which is so funny to me. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out because it is brought up again. Like there's a talk of like what it actually means, like more explanation. I feel like later in the books. So yeah, that's an
I feel like it's brought up in almost every book from here on out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. I couldn't remember if it's in the next book or the next one, how much it's brought up. I couldn't remember. So that's why I'm like, it's in some book at some point again.
I was surprised though. I didn't remember this coming up. Like when I reread it, I was like, oh, we have these pieces of information like from book 2 already. So yeah, I was surprised. I didn't remember any of that.
Yeah, I didn't remember that it was in this book. I thought it was brought up the first time in like book 3 or 4.
Agreed. So. Yeah, agreed.
Is there anything else that like you guys noticed between Poppy and Castile, Poppy and another character, anything like that you're like, I personally feel like this book was kind of a filler book. In terms of the plot, it's like they really stayed in, is it Spessa's End? Is that where they were? For most of the time, and it's just getting to know the characters, more of the Wolven, more about Atlanteans, what they have running water with faucets and all that stuff. Like just I did feel like this was more of a filler book. So I feel like we had a lot to talk about with book 1, and I feel like we're gonna have a lot to talk about in book 2 or book 3, excuse me. But I didn't know if there was anything that you guys noticed particularly.
I found 2 things really interesting. The first, interesting and impactful, I should say, and telling. The first one was that they didn't really come out with their feelings about each other until they were in a room full of people and were saying it in front of everyone. And I found that really interesting. That was like the first time they were honest, and then they kind of backpedaled a few times after that, and then it kind of became like a back and forth. But that was interesting to me. And the second one was how long it takes Poppy to realize that she's not locked in that room. Like she's not a prisoner. And when she realizes like the giant emotional impact that has, and like she kind of breaks down when she realizes that she's not a prisoner anymore.
That's probably one of my favorite parts of this series is the way that Castile treats Poppy. So obviously I feel like in the first book, think where he stands with some things. And in this book, it's kind of like a development. Like we said with both, they both have things that they're developing. But that moment for me was one that I personally love because it's like the beginning of the foundation of their relationship that you see in later books of how he treats her, but that he recognizes who and what she is and what she can do and her potential. And he never wants to like chain that down. So I feel like that's one of the moments for Poppy that she realizes what he's doing and how much she really understands. He understands her. Sorry.
Yeah, that makes sense. I kind of agree. I think that from this book you can see, or I at least felt, I'm not sure about you guys, but a huge difference from Castile in book 1 to this book. But then I think that the way in which he treats her, it's super similar to how he will treat her in the following books. Like it's this adoration, almost like every time he's like, I will kill for you kind of vibe, which of course it's not healthy, but it's fine to read. But not just that, right? Like he really adores us. He really, like, she's the best, and we can see that from now onwards. So I think there's a turning point here. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, it's just personally one of my favorite things that we get a glimpse of that because that's what I love about the books going forward. You get to see more of that. You also get like glimpses of when, like how they're equal. Well, they're not equal, but he is treating her as like an equal because he sees how strong she is, how capable, that she can handle herself. She doesn't need him to do anything for her, but he wants to. So when I think it's a moment in this book when he's like, here's a sword, kill as many as I do. Like the banter I love between them, especially in battle scenes, but also it's like this competition. Like he's trying to get her to show really and like just explode because he knows how capable she is with certain things. And I love that. Yeah, I love her growth as a fighter too. It's one of my favorite things about Poppy. I can feel like I can relate to.
And then it turns out she's even more powerful than we thought.
Yeah. I highlighted the part because this time when I was rereading, I was like highlighting like my favorite lines and stuff. And when he leaves the bloodstone dagger that Victor left her so she can defend herself, I like absolutely love that.
Yeah. Was it in this book too? I don't think it was the end of the first book, but that person that was speaking out about how he will never treat Poppy as Poppy. She will always be the maiden and she's a traitor. And he basically just kills him, like takes his heart out, drops it on a plate.
Yeah.
I love Castile.
Same.
I love him.
So violent, but he's great.
There's one moment, well, I know that you guys that have read it already, but there's a moment, I think in the third or fourth book, where he sees her and does something to another person. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Does he see her do something and then they?
No, it's after they see each other again after not seeing each other for a little while.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
The way he kills someone.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what book that is. I think that's book 4.
Yeah, they blend together because they're my favorite. But yeah, touch her and your dog. Yeah, but it's not more like touch her and I'll just unleash her on you, and she's just gonna go ballistic because you touched her too. Yeah, I just love.
I'm interested in finding out like a further explanation of the end.
Oh, yeah, that's how I was going to end this live show because that's a lot to talk about.
I was like, sorry, we were talking about her powers and everything like that. And like,
so I feel like that really started when they're traveling to Atlantia and they go into the forest and she has this dream, and both Kieran, dream that makes her get up and walk around. And both Kieran and Castile are like, literally, what are you doing? Like, I can't save you if you were to go like walk off like this. Like, what are you doing? And she's trying to explain, and you find out that it's basically the god that was talking to her, or like giving her this dream, which we get more of the gods like in especially the prequel, like you were saying, Issa. But
that was actually one of my favorite scenes. Like not the first time, but this time around, I was like, oh, like she's special, right? And this is the first time, or it has the wedding happened already, but it's like one of the first times that we are already seeing that she is different. Like we have seen her glow with her power, but now it's like, okay, this is like different. Like a god is talking to her. Something is happening.
This is when I realized that like the gods interacting was like a thing that actually happens, because prior to this they're talking about gods and I'm thinking of these ancient creatures, but I think it's during the wedding the god shows a sign and then she has these dreams. So I thought that was interesting.
The wedding was in this book, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was another one of my favorite parts. I was listening to it while I was working, so like sometimes they blend together for me because it's like I've reread them, but that was another one of my personal favorite scenes too, because I just love how like, you know, we view marriage as, oh, we have this party and we get together and we say our vows, but I feel like their wedding is very intimate and very much about them too, and having basically this god blessing them was just very cool to me to see how it shows Poppy that like this is the right thing, like this, you're going in the right direction kind of a thing. It was a sign for her, and I really like that because I feel like she needed that.
Totally
agreed.
Yeah. But then after they get to Atlantia, it's more about her and who she is and what she is. And I'm like, okay, we're going back to like, I don't know, the 1700s, people stoned people. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, that was the wildest ending, I feel like, to one of the books was this one.
Yeah, blood falling from the sky? What? What?
That's horrible.
But I really love that. Is there anything else? I know I still got 20 minutes till an hour, but do you guys have anything else that kind of stood out? I know this is a filler book, so it's not that much to talk about, but
I really like the battle scene. I forgot that was probably one of my favorite parts of the book. I think she wrote that really well, besides the carriage. But like, I feel like there was a lot of tension, and like, I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah. And also, like, what is unveiled, right? Like that she is the granddaughter of the queen. That is like, what? Like the first time that it went, what? Like, is it true? Is it lie? What is happening here? It was
Yeah,
massive.
that confused me on my reread. So
yeah, I forgot that happened, and I was
yeah,
like,
same.
what? Like sometimes the books, they just blend together. So when things, like, it's so cool to see where she placed things.
Yes.
But we don't
How
yet
she did
know, right? Oh, sorry.
No, no.
Okay.
Would you say?
We don't yet know, right?
If it's a true or if it is a lie, right?
Oh, no, we don't know.
Because I'm like,
Yeah,
I
it
still
makes
don't.
you question. It makes you question because you're like, well, I knew her parents or what she thought was her parents. You know what I mean? And then now she's questioning: is Ian my real brother? Like, was that my real blood parents? Like, what is happening? What is happening right now?
Yeah.
She's got a lot of stuff going on in her life.
Yeah.
She's questioning a lot of things. We'll
Yeah.
just say.
So did she make it rain blood? I'm not
We'll
supposed to
find out.
Basically, the next book literally picks up. It's like if you flip a page to the next chapter, that's where the next book picks up.
And I think originally it was all supposed to be one book, but because of how long this book ended up being, she cut it here because it really reads like just a continuation of that chapter.
Yeah. I wish that was I think my one thing is I wish that this book was 200 pages and not 500 pages.
Yeah.
And I wish that she would put it with the second book. So, and I wish that she would have stopped, or I'm sorry, put it with the third book. And then she would have stopped the third book at a specific part. When I'll reread it, I know, because I've said this before, I think she should have stopped it there and picked up the third book there and then continued, and not have 6 books for the series or 9 books, however many books she's going to have. That's a lot.
Especially since the first half of the book is just a lot of miscommunication. I feel like that could have been condensed down so much and it would have been fine, but
it changes so much, right? Like the book, the first half, the pace is so slow, and it's basically them, like, and their relationship, and it feels to me very romance, but like very heavy with the miscommunication trope. And then the second half is like way more faster. We learn a lot more about her powers, than the different places, than this war, then everything comes, and it's like, why you spend like so much time in this part, and then everything that happens in like 100 pages, you know?
But Issa, this actually reminded me a lot of ACOTAR, the first book, but I feel like ACOTAR does it in a better way.
That's fair. That's fair. That's
yeah.
First book, yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what ACOTAR is like barely, I mean, the first book in ACOTAR, like ACOTAR, not the series. People always get confused when I say that, but it's like less than 400 pages or something like that.
Yeah. But like all of the action is at those last like 100 pages.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. But it actually reminded me more to, what's the series called of Lexi Ryan? Like, what's it called? The series, These Hollow Vows? Yeah, These Hollow Vows.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she writes, the duology is great, but like, she always packs everything in the last 50 pages.
Yeah.
So it really reminded me to that, especially being a second book, right? Like, you already have some context and you are expecting more to happen. But
I feel like, though, that's a pattern with JLA with all her other books, especially with the prequel. Yeah, I feel like she does that with every single book. The last 150 pages is when everything happens. Always, constantly.
Yeah.
I don't mind it too much because I think I'm used to it, because that happens a lot. I feel like that happens a lot in epic fantasy too, where, and I'm like a character-driven reader, so pacing is not a thing that bothers me. Like what people say, like bad pacing or slow pacing or whatever. Like, to me, that's not a thing that bothers me. Though, like I said, the miscommunication bothers me.
Yeah.
But the actual pacing or a lot of the action happening in the second half or the last 25% or whatever it is, that's actually not something that bothers me.
See, for pacing for me, the fantasy that I read was The War of Two Queens, and I hated that because it was, I don't know how many pages that book is, but the first like 70% of that book is just like all these things, and then the last last 200 pages is when everything that happens, and I'm like,
Yeah.
That's how I felt about the most recent prequel. And I think I was messaging you, Isa, because like I didn't like 90% of that book, but then I got to the end and I was like, oh my gosh, the end's amazing. And I think I rated it 4 stars just because I loved the ending of the book.
That's why the prequel, I feel a certain type of way because I had a lot of expectations. So I'm really excited to reread those because I feel like my opinion is going to change. The better or the worse, I don't know, but I think it's going to change. So I'm really interested in that coming up. But yeah. You guys have anything else? And we're going to probably end it. Do you guys have anything else you want to mention for the next book for people that you're excited if it's going to be a reread, or any theories you might have going forward if you're new to reading?
Can we just talk before we go about Beckett and everything that happens? Like, let's just discuss this, please. Like, I need this.
I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot about that.
But we don't know.
No. Okay. We just know what has happened and how Poppy feels.
Yeah.
Huh?
What? Yeah, you know Beckett.
Well, what are your thoughts on Beckett, Hannah?
Who?
Beckett, the child that is like accompanied by the end of the book, and the one that betrays her.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
The one that she has healed before.
Yeah. Sorry, I remember him. I guess I was surprised, but I knew she was. In the book, they teased multiple times that she was heading for a betrayal. So I knew to expect a betrayal. Huh?
That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
Me neither. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was told by, who was it? That woman. There was a couple people that had told her, hey, like the king is planning on offing you. So she knew that they were going to try to kill her. But so I was expecting a betrayal at the end of the book, but I didn't know who was going to do it. Yeah, it sucks it was like the little boy, but I guess I just wasn't surprised.
Okay.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Me neither.
I was shocked at the end of that book. I knew that the Castiel's parents might see her as like a threat, but like I didn't think they were like planning something against her. And yeah, I was shocked at the end.
I mean, what a way to meet your like husband's
in-laws. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, okay, we're going there, I guess. That's fine.
Well, I gathered too, who was it that asked, like, they purposely separated her from Castile. And so that's when I was like, okay, yeah, this is about to go down. And, but who was that? Was that Alistair that separated him? I think it was Alistair.
I think so, yes. That he's like, I need to talk the things.
Yeah. So I personally, like, I don't know who orchestrated it. I just know like there's a group that wants, but I assume the king and queen have something to do with it because she had already been told that they were plotting her death. But I'm guessing Alistair is working with them. But
well, like I said, it's literally like you flip a page in the first book and it picks up right off. So a lot of those questions get answered pretty early on. So I'm so excited for the next book. I can't. It's one of my favorites of the series of all of this world prequel stuff. So I'm ready. I'm so ready to read that one.
I have to say too, I was going to say there was literally a moment in this book that I was straight up laughing out loud, and my husband was looking at me cross-eyed. He was like, "What are you doing?" I laughed my ass off when they were talking about Castile and what was it, his father, both being into women who try to like attack them or whatever. Yeah. I think she goes, glad to know the disturbed apple doesn't fall far from the crazy tree. And I literally, like, I had to write it down. I was cackling for 10 minutes. Like, it was so funny. And I thought that was one of the cutest things, too, that he likes that side of her. Even though that's, like, totally not, like, obviously that's an issue. But I also got a lot of enjoyment out of that, about, like, their actual, like, verbal bantering, but also their, like, the fighting back and forth and the jokes about, oh, well, she stabbed me this many times or whatever. I thought that was like, that was some fun, like, break in the tension throughout the whole book.
Totally.
I agree. I love them together. I love their back and forth banter.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. I was trying to get him to stop, but
You're good. But I think that is it. I don't think I wrote anything else down that was like, no. Oh, I the other thing that I did write was like, why is she talking about lilac so much? That was it. Like, everything is lilac scented, and then the cave was full of lilac. Lilac is like a freaking thing, and I'm like, why is everything lilac?
That does play a part later.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a thing.
That's a
Okay.
thing.
I was like, I mean, like, I like lilacs as much as the next girl, but like, things can be rose scented, you know?
Yeah.
just like Castile is, what is he smoking? Pine and
Yeah, cedar and yeah, something like
spice.
that.
Pine and spice.
Pine and spice.
yeah, that's what it is. Which is like so broad. I'm like, what is pine and spice? I have a candle. It's supposed to be
I have multiple Castile candles, and they are all that scent, and they all smell very different.
Yeah, so I'm like, what is happening? But like, what?
I like evergreen scents on men, so I guess I'm more like, or like those earthy spices, like clove and patchouli and stuff, and I like pine and cedar and sandalwood.
Yeah, but those are all different. Like, what we need her to define what is pine and spice, because
right.
I want to know what it smells like.
I don't imagine cinnamon. I imagine more like a musky clove. I don't know. But that's just a personal imagining. I don't know what she imagines.
But that smells good.
Jalapeno.
Do you guys have anything else before we close it out?
Nope.
My dog is going crazy.
In there.
But the next live show is A Crown of Gilded Bones. It's going to be April 4th at 2 p.m.
8th.
April 8th.
April 8th.
I think
I've been saying the 4th. I'm so
Saturday.
sorry.
I
Oh,
thought it
April
was
8th. Yeah, April 8th. Sorry, yes. At 2 p.m., right?
Yep.
2 p.m.
And it's on Hannah's channel?
My channel.
So, yeah, we'll be posting on our Instagram. I hope you join us, whether it's the 5th reread or the first time you're going to read it, because I'm so excited for that discussion. I'm really
really excited for this book.
Yeah. I feel like I'm hyping it up too much. Like, don't. It's just my personal favorite, Hannah. Don't go into it thinking it's going to be like, oh my God.
I also loved it.
Yeah,
Really,
that's one of my
really
favorites.
It's one of my favorites in the series as well. So
yeah,
it's a good one.
But I got my copy. It just arrived today. And like, so this is my copy of this book. And it's like this short. It goes to here. They look like stupid on the shelf.
Oh.
I'm very upset about it.
Yeah, I can understand. Like, no.
I hate when that happens. Like,
mine are all the same size, my paperbacks.
Same with me, Hannah. I'm not sure if it's that one or the next one, but I have one in the series that it's not shorter, but it's bigger. And it
Yeah. My The War of Two Queens, the 4th book, is taller, but my first 3, they're the same height. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, might be it's the 4th one.
I know if you get them on Amazon, they're different. Yeah. They can be different sizes.
Yeah.
Because I have the paperback for the I have the hardbacks for the prequels. So for the prequels, they're both hardback and they're the same size. So I decided to do that instead of getting them from Amazon. I got them from Barnes & Noble. But yeah, apparently there's a way that you can search the ISBN number to the shorter one, but I don't know. I just heard that's how you can do it. I've never tried it, but
I got the shorter. I guess I got the shorter one for this, A Crown of Gilded Bones, and I guess I got the big ones for these. This
Okay.
one and from
I
Blood Match.
I think if you pre-order them, they're all the same. They're the shortest size. Because I've pre-ordered all of the books, and that's the size I've got.
Pre-ordered from Amazon?
From Amazon, yeah.
Oh, okay. I think the 4th book is the one that I didn't pre-order. I think I just pre-ordered the audio. So maybe that's why it's the tallest one. But yeah, well, thank you guys for joining us in the comments. Can't wait to, one is, that's the dimensions,
Yeah. No.
I don't know the dimensions, but apparently those are. But thank you guys for joining. The next live show is going to be on Hannah's channel. Hannah right there. I don't have everyone linked right now in the description, but once we end the broadcast or live show, I'll go and add everyone, so make sure you follow. But thank you so much for discussing A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by JLA. And yeah, we'll see you in the next live show in a month. Bye, guys.
Yeah.